Before we go on, I want to acknowledge one of my ancestors, Philip Annett, who came here with his father and my other ancestors in 1820. Because my great-great-great-great-grandfather had been a Waterloo veteran, a British Army officer who was given 200 acres of somebody else's land in Upper Canada because they wanted to make sure it was settled with politically and religiously reliable people. So any British officer got all his land. And I often say, well, this is maybe my payback to the people there to kind of make up in some small way for the fact that we got your land in 1820. His son Philip Annett took part in the uprising in 1837. William Lyon MacKenzie, that you don't get taught much about in school, the attempt to overthrow what was called the family compact. The small political, religious, and corporate elites that ran this country, and I believe still do run this country, because the 1837 rebellion was crushed and a lot of their leaders hanged. Mackenzie went in exile into the States. But my great-great-great-grandfather, Philip Annett, lived down near Watford, and he picked up his, the family legend tells us about him picking up his rifle and his wife getting really angry at him because he took away the only rifle with which she had to protect herself at night from the wolves that are around the cabin. But he went off, and they tried to reach York here to join Mackenzie, and they didn't get there in time because by then it had been scattered and broken by the local Tory militia. But I acknowledge the fact that what Philip and others tried to do was to stop the thing which would one day cause the genocide of Native people in the residential schools. Because that revolution was defeated, because we did not get real responsible government, you had a situation set up with the church, the Catholic Church in Quebec or Lower Canada, the Anglican Church here, were given absolute monopoly over the society. As a matter of fact, if you were a free church missionary, that's why you had to go west, because you weren't allowed to legally preach, just like in England, unless you were a Church of England or Roman Catholic Church minister. So as a result, the power of the church became absolute in Canadian society. And that's why when the residential schools were set up in the 1880s, with the Canadian Pacific Railway linked the country, and the ruling class here had to solidify their power because the Americans were trying to grab the whole West Coast, they had to settle that area quickly. So they turned it over to the church. With that kind of absolute power, they established these so-called residential schools, which caused the death of 50 to 100,000 children over a century in a planned system of genocide. Because they know, like all over the world, the way you destroy a culture is you destroy the women and the children, and that bond, that essential bond that's the heart of any vibrant culture. And the effect we know on the streets of Vancouver and all over, on these streets here, as we'll talk about today.